My mom leaned over and whispered, "Don't be jealous of your brother." I stood up, pulled out my phone, and set it on the table. The screen lit up with numbers. $18,450 in transfers over the past year. "Then let him pay all the bills," I replied. That evening, my dad jokingly said, "Matt, you'll never be as successful as your brother Ryan." I put down my fork and pulled out a folder with 4 years of receipts and bills. That's when I realized the joke wasn't on them. I was the punchline. "Hi, my name is Matt. I'm 26 years old. I'm the eldest son, the reliable one. I'm the guy who keeps spare batteries and emergency cash in a Ziploc bag for a rainy day. I'm the one who always pays rent on time and shows up early because there's never enough chairs at the table. At family barbecues, I bring folding chairs. Someone has to think of that." My parents would describe me with 2 words: responsible and quiet. My younger brother Ryan, on the other hand, is the complete opposite. His smile, charisma, and charm make every waiter flirt and bring him complimentary desserts. He's the one our parents are always proud of. New job, new car, connections to important people. Every little success of his instantly became a family bragging point. In their stories, he was the lead singer. I was just background music. When mom complained about her back or reached for a ladder, I took extra shifts at work to help. Since I was 20, I've fixed Wi-Fi, changed light bulbs, bought groceries. But not once did anyone ask, "Matt, how are you doing?" They always asked, "Who else can you help?" 2 months ago, it was mom's birthday. I stopped by the bakery and got her favorite carrot cake, loaded with cream cheese frosting. What did Ryan do? He showed up empty-handed, only with a story about almost meeting some guy from a startup. And everyone laughed, as if he had won a prize. I sat across from my dad as he refilled his wine glass and said, "You know, Matt, you'll never be like your brother." He chuckled. Mom laughed. Even Ryan, the loudest of all. But for me, it wasn't a joke. It was a blow. I put down my fork. The numbers ran through my head. 11 months paying their electricity, 31 gas fill-ups for mom's car, 21 grocery trips when the fridge was empty. Meanwhile, my brother was between important projects. I realized that in this story, the real clown was me. Aunt Susan, sitting nearby, noticed I wasn't smiling and whispered softly, "Don't be so sensitive. Mom tried to smooth things over. We just want you to be more ambitious." I grabbed a glass of water. My hand shook. Everything inside me screamed, "Enough." A week after that dinner, I was back at their kitchen table. This time, mom smiled and handed me a grocery list. "We're all doing what we can, Matt. You understand." I took the list, knowing most of it would be bought with my card. I wasn't just buying groceries. I helped Ryan rewrite his resume. I let him use my address, so he wouldn't have to keep changing residences. I drove him to interviews. I even paid to replace a bathroom faucet. When mom sent photos of the pantry full of food, it felt like I had bought myself a tiny island of peace. But there was no peace. Soon, packages started arriving in my name. New sneakers, a drone, a gaming headset. All for Ryan. Dad laughed at my exhaustion. "Welcome to adulthood, kiddo." Aunt Susan countered. "Family isn't a ledger." But in our household, the ledger lived in my pocket. The rules were simple. Mom could scold Ryan for a week if he ordered takeout. But when I paid 2 months of electricity, she just said, "We're all doing our part." On Father's Day, I made the reservation and paid for dinner for 4. "You didn't have to," Dad said, before turning to Ryan to probe his grand plans. I smiled politely, but under the table, I opened my banking app and saw $250 deposited from the plumber. Not me. Our boy made some calls. I stayed silent. Week after week, I felt smaller. I wasn't starving or broke, but I denied myself small things. Skipped dinners with friends, canceled trips, scrimped on myself. Because there was always an urgent $200 transfer for car repairs, insurance, groceries. I pretended to be busy when coworkers invited me on weekend trips. I said no, because my savings were disappearing into an endless void. I thought, maybe they don't realize. Maybe they think money just exists. But they knew. Of course they knew. Ryan would text, "You're a lifesaver, bro. I'll pay you back once my commission hits." Mom would say, "You're so reliable. And since you're so good with money." Dad would call on payday, casually asking if I was okay. They knew. And then I remembered 3 moments that burned into me. The first, when I gave Mom a heavy blanket for Christmas. She hugged me, thanked me, but quickly switched her attention when Ryan handed her a free spa certificate he had gotten from a friend. She cried tears of joy. The second, when my brakes broke. I had to choose, pay the mechanic $300 or give my parents $220 for an overdue electric bill. I chose them. 3 weeks later, Mom posted a photo from a restaurant. Much needed date night. Wine glasses, smiles, the works. The third, the lemon cleaner night, as they called it. After a few drinks, jokes started. "You'll never be like your brother, but at least we can rely on you." Inside, it felt like a concrete slab pressing down, crushing the air from my lungs. That night, I scrolled through all my bank transfers. The first was January 14th, 2019, $120. They had asked to borrow until Friday 4 paper towels. After that, dozens of pages. The total, $26,670. That money could buy a new car, a first apartment deposit, or at least a bigger bed so I wouldn't wake up and panic at 3 a.m. But it all disappeared in bills, repairs, and other people's purchases. I sat on the kitchen counter with a cup of cold tea. I wanted to scream, but instead of anger, I felt emptiness. It wasn't rage, it was burnout. The next morning, Dad left a voicemail. Family jokes, kiddo. I realized then it wasn't a joke. It was a system. And I was its main sponsor. That evening, a message came from Ryan. Hey, you around? I'm $400 short on rent. Can't ask Mom and Dad. They're tight. I'll pay you back. You're the best. I stared at the screen, fingers hovering over the keyboard. And for the first time, I typed, let me think. Then deleted the message. I sent nothing. The next day, I woke up with a heaviness in my chest. I stared at my phone. Unread messages, reminders, transfers. I opened my laptop, grabbed a notebook, and started typing. At the top of the document, I wrote one word, transfers. Then, hour by hour, I entered the numbers, dates, amounts, notes. Sometimes my fingers shook so much that I mistyped. 2 hours later, the screen was filled with 9 pages. Utilities, food, car repairs, AC repairs, rent. The list seemed endless. I printed the pages on cheap paper and put them in a plastic binder from a dollar store. I stared at the folder like it was a ticking time bomb. I wasn't sure if I'd actually use it, but I knew if Sunday came and the family plan talk started again, I wouldn't arrive empty-handed. Sunday was oppressive. The air felt heavy, like right before a thunderstorm. I parked 2 houses down from my parents. I brought a bag of paper towels, symbolic since this all started with them. When I opened the door, the familiar scene was there. Mom sat with a calculator and a stack of bills. Dad scrolled through his phone without looking up. Ryan slouched in a chair, resting his head on his hand. We were just discussing our plan, Mom smiled. Great, I replied, setting the bag on the table. Dad tapped the calculator. We've run the numbers. Interest rates are up, inflation is killing us, so everyone needs to contribute. We're thinking monthly contributions from everyone until things stabilize. From everyone, Ryan repeated, not looking at me. I pulled the binder from my bag and set on the table. Before we talk about plans, let's go over the last 4 years. Mom frowned. What's this? Receipts, I said. Transfers for utilities, rent, groceries, repairs. I may have missed a few, but most of it is here. Dad tensed, jaw clenched. Matt, now is not the time to play accountant. Exactly the time, Mom said sharply, flipping open the binder. She flipped through the pages while Ryan muttered, what money? We never got anything from you. I silently pulled out my phone, opened my banking app, and set on the table. Here are the transfers. Here are the dates. If you want, I can print statements. Dad pushed my phone away as if it were on fire. That's disrespectful. Disrespect is rewriting my life and pretending nothing happened, I replied. I've been paying since 2019. I can read it line by line. Or easier, just read it yourself. Ryan looked up and smirked. Bro, why are you making this weird? It's family. Family expresses gratitude. Family acknowledges reality, I said. Not pretend everything's fine. Mom slammed the binder shut and looked at me. After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us? Throwing numbers in our face. I'm not throwing anything. I'm showing the truth, I said calmly. You call me reliable. You laugh while I stayed silent as bills were dumped on me. Today, I'm not silent. Dad leaned forward, eyes narrowing. So what do you want? A medal? A parade? Boundaries, I replied. No more monthly transfers. No more urgent Venmo requests at night. If you need help, ask in advance and accept no for an answer. Then let him pay all the bills himself. Ryan snapped. I turned to Dad. If I'll never be as good as your golden child, let him be your safety net. Mom gasped sharply. Don't you dare pit brothers against each other. You did that a long time ago, I said calmly. The air thickened. It was hard to breathe, but my voice remained steady like a metronome. I didn't want revenge. I wanted survival. Dad rasped. So you're cutting us off? I'm not cutting off. I shook my head. I'm ending a system that has been draining me dry. Mom stared at the binder as if it were a weapon. I'm not your bank, I said. I'm your son. We never asked you, she said. Those were gifts. Gifts are when someone is happy, not when they demand your checkbook, I replied. Ryan snorted. Come on, you just like feeling like the hero. No, I whispered. I just wanted to be your son. I grabbed the binder, set the bag of paper towels on the table, and headed for the door. Matt, don't walk away. Mom shouted. You can't just... I placed my hand on the handle and said, I can, and I am. I closed the door, and the silence hit harder than any words. The phone vibrated just an hour after I left. The name Mom appeared on the screen. I didn't pick up. 5 minutes later, a message came through. We just wanted to talk. You're overdoing it. Then, a call from Ryan. I saw his name flashing on the screen, but left the phone on silent. Soon a voicemail arrived. Bro, you really think you can cut us out? You can't handle it. You'll come back. I sat on the couch, staring at the wall, feeling both fear and relief rising inside me at the same time. For the first time in years, I said no, and the world didn't collapse. The next day, the messages grew longer. Mom wrote, I don't understand why you're being so cruel. We've always been there. Dad added, you're shaming the family. Men don't complain about their duties. And Ryan sent a short one. All right, let's see how you sing in a month. I read it all, and for the first time in my life, didn't feel guilty. On the contrary, I realized I'd gained freedom. I started sleeping better, started planning my expenses. For the first time in years, I bought something I wanted. Not a phone for someone else, not a new fridge for my parents, but just good sneakers for myself. Maybe for someone else it's small. But for me, it was symbolic. My life belongs to me again. Yes, the calls didn't stop. Yes, the neighbor reported that Mom cried in the kitchen. Yes, I know Dad thinks I'm a traitor. But there are things more valuable than approval. These are my boundaries. My right to say no. My right to be a son, not an ATM. And now I ask myself, how many people live in similar stories? How many silently carry the financial burdens of others because they're afraid to disappoint loved ones? How many lose years trying to earn love through numbers in a bank account? And now a question for you. If you were in my place, would you continue paying for your family, even if it breaks you inside? Or would you cut this cycle once and for all?